Before I fit the new inner wing on this side, I've got to replace this triangulation. You see it's pretty rusted and blown out. Got new ones from Machine. There's the one for that side. There's the one for that side. Now the triangulation's off, I've cut the front off the cross member. This is very pitted with a hole. Cut it back to some good metal, and that stiffener inside, I'm going to polish that up a little bit with the wire wheel and put a new front on it. Got the new piece of 16 gauge, same thickness steel, tacked in place now. I'll weld it up, and now I can put that triangulation back on and the inner wing. As anyone who's fitted Mk1 inner wings will know, just here, they're the wrong shape. You can see the difference there between this pressing and the bit I've stuck over the top for now. I don't know how other people get around this, but I have a bit of a rotation system. On one job, I'll fabricate this bit and weld it in the right place. And then on the next job, I can use the bit I've cut out of the previous one to weld in the right place. That'll fit now. That's the difference it makes. So the inner wings are done now. I've got the doors sitting nicely in the apertures, but the inner A panel's done and welded on. The original front panel's cleaned up and ready to go for sandblasting. So I need to take the door skins off now so the door frames can go with it. Let's see what state the door frames are in. Usual rust around the flanges. The bottom looks surprisingly solid. There are a few little holes, but we might get away with not putting in a complete bottom after blasting and just do some repairs. When did you last see a halfpenny? It's just fallen out of this door. And here's the other door. This one is the worst of the two. There was quite a bit of fiberglass along the bottom there. Probably have to put a whole bottom in this one. But we'll see when it comes back from the blasters. I've been quite looking forward to this. The boot lid's got loads of fiberglass in the bottom. So I'm going to pop the skin off the frame, repair it and put it back on. Okay, I've just been to get the bits from the blasters. There's the boot skin. And the boot frame. As the customer wants to keep as much original as possible, I'm going to repair them. The original plan was to repair this front panel, but it's worse than I thought. So I'm going to have a second look at it and decide. Bottoms of the door frames, better than usual to be honest. That's the worst one of the two. This one isn't terrible, so I'll make up some new sections, knock some dents out and reskin them. I've repaired the boot lid frame, I made a new bottom section, welded it in, cleaned it up. I have pre-fitted it on the car, It fits quite nicely, so I need to repair the other door and the boot lid skin. The driver's side door frame wasn't terrible condition, but we put a new bottom on anyway because there were some holes and it was quite thin. The new section's from Machine. This is what the passenger door frame looks like after blasting. Got the new bottom section from Machine. I'm going to cut that in and weld it in now. I make these drain tubes and keep them in stock. Go in there like that, I'll weld them in. There's the old door bottom and the new one. I can paint those frames and the boot lid frame ready for skinning later on. The original boot lid doesn't look very good. I'm going to try welding a new bottom in it. I haven't done this before, so I hope it comes out well. So I rolled a little bit of shape into the new piece of steel, make it the same profile as the original boot lid. I'm going to cut a butt joint along that line, tack it in place, turn the new flange all the way along the bottom, and then completely weld it, and hopefully it'll be alright. A new section of steel is tacked in place now. Seems to have gone quite well. And I'll flip it over. When I repaired the frame, I trimmed it to fit the original skin and the boot aperture nicely. So now I've got that laid in there and located correctly, I can use it to mark out the new flange on the skin. I'll turn that. That will hold strength while I weld it completely, I hope. Okay, I've turned the flange along the new bottom. It's still only tacked in place. The frame's not in there. That's just resting in the aperture. So now it's time to weld all the way along the bottom, and hopefully it won't distort too badly. And I can clean it up and you'll barely know. That's all welded up now, and I'm actually really quite happy with it. Welded in well, cleaned up well. There's a tiny little bit on each end that needs welding still, but I'll do that after it's fitted to the skin, sorry, the frame. That's MIG welded. Some people might ask why I didn't TIG weld it. Well, I get just as good a result with the MIG, and it's quicker. Makes it more cost effective for my customer. Okay, I've finished my boot lid repairs now. The new bottom is all welded in, clenched back on the frame, gapped. replicated the original spot welds in the number plate recess. I'm calling that finished. The new front panel's just arrived from Mini Spares. Thank you, Mini Spares. I did want to repair the original. You can see there's a lot of damage. Rust damage. And flanges. Number plate brackets will be put on the new one, but the bumper lip is all rotten. The worst bit on the inside, rust holes in the valance, very, very thin, just there. More rust holes in the valance. These brackets have rotted through on both sides. It's just more economical to replace it. So what I'll do, you can see the difference in size between the indicator platforms. The original is half an inch smaller, so I'll reduce those. The grill aperture has some differences. I'll change that. As I said before, the number plate brackets. And there's just a few grill holes and a couple of changes on the slam panel to do. Here's me forgetting that some of you following the channel aren't necessarily mini buffs or realise why I make the changes that I do on a front panel. It's because a Mk1 specific front panel isn't available. We have to buy the later one, which had larger indicators, different grill aperture, different number plate brackets, and I change it so that it's correct for the year of the car. This car being after 1964 has the cutouts in the front valance, as opposed to an early 64 car which would have a full skirt valance. You keep your eye on this part of the subframe and line it up to this line on the front panel. The light's not great, but you can see they line up parallel now. That mounting hole in there, I slotted out about 1/16 of an inch just to drop that side of the front panel down and make it sit straight. So once that front panel is sitting straight and level with the subframe, next I centralise the bonnet with the front panel and the scuttle. Now I can line the wings up to it. Get a nice even gap. I don't know what it was with this one, but sometimes the front ends can be a bit of a pain to get straight. This one seemed to fall into place quite nicely. So on the inside of these seams, I've just put a few little tacks. I can slip the whole front end assembly off, put it on the trestles, spot weld them together, and then refit it and spot weld it in place. Spot welded and cleaned up, now I can final fit the front end. So now the front end is spot welded in place. I'm going to move on to skinning the doors. I always just pre-check the new skin in the aperture first. It looks not too bad, so I'm going to get on and do it. I think you can just about see that as I knock the flange of the skin over, I roll it. I don't just knock it straight over, because that would give me a definite line. And it's very difficult to alter the gap if I need to. With a roll, I can either stretch it out or shrink it back and get the gap just nice. As always, it's really important to fit the rubbers and catches on the doors, make sure they sit level with nice gaps and that they're going to be watertight. I'm happy with this one now, so I can weld the door step in place. I never spot weld that until I'm happy with the door fit. And if you remember earlier in the video, I said I won't be welding this seam on the quarter panel until the end, just in case I need to move it. I don't need to move it at all. I'm happy with the fit, and that will clean up nicely and look great. Now that's welded up and cleaned up with a nice door fit, I can spot weld the doorstep seam. You see I've marked them out 1 inch pitch. And now I can do the other side. In case you're wondering, I don't sit there with a rule and mark out every inch for my spot welds. Sharpie lid is 2 inches long. Two-inch pitch. One-inch pitch. The last few details are new drip rails, spot welded on underneath the gutters. Pre-drill the screw holes for the Mk1 blanking plate. Fill in the small cutouts underneath the headlights that shouldn't be there on a Mk1. Vacuum it out and fit my number plates for photographs.